You know, just got cooked 4 T-bone steaks, and my daughter's home, and you're making fun of me for being, you know, I've had it with you, Roger.
We can say whatever you want to. I wasn't even a king, but that was
My son-in-law's there too, so.
Huh?
Okay, well, I think we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Everybody have a chance to read the minutes of the last meeting? If so, is there any additions or corrections to the minutes?
I will make a motion to approve the written.
Okay, been moved by Amanda,
Second.
second by Larry. All in favor? Minutes approved. Consent agenda,
Sorry, there's nothing.
nothing. Okay, good. Do police report. I don't know if the police can make it out. Okay, new business. Well, okay, we're gonna go ahead and let David do the 2020 census.
That was really quick.
Yes.
Thank you very much. One second, sir. Can I see if I can open this PowerPoint? I want to take one of these lights off, if that works for you guys. Too dark? That's great. Good night, right? So my name is David Driscoll. I'm a partnership specialist, Kansas 2020 team. I am an immigrant. I'm former U.S. Army, married, been living in Salina now for 2 years. So I'm here today to talk to you about what it is I do, and hopefully by the end of this PowerPoint presentation, if I haven't bored you, we're going to talk about complete count committees and what they are, what they represent, and how they can help get an accurate count during this next decennial. Now, I'm going to try and walk around with this mouse, and hopefully it works. Yes, look at that. Okay, so as partnership specialists, there are, I think, 12 of us in this state. I'm responsible for the northwest region from Saline County to Cheyenne, but there are other members of the team that are responsible for schools, for example. You may have had or seen Melinda Stanley in your neck of the woods talking to your superintendents. Maybe not. In fact, before I go any further, have you had anybody else from the Census Bureau come out? No? Okay, so I am the first person, so I'm not going to bore you with this slide presentation. Do we all know the importance of the census? I'm sure we do.
We had somebody from Ukraine, didn't they come in?
Where's this Ukraine place? Or did he bring his own crane?
He was talking about the 2020 election. Okay, not the
All right, so... Okay, so the census began in 1790. It is a constitutional mandate. Everybody will be counted every 10 years. Article 1, Section 2 highlights that need and requirement. That very first census was conducted by just 500 people on horseback. Took them 6 months, and it cost the tune of $15,000. Not much, right? Time value of money, I don't know what that means today. Probably a pretty penny. Today, though, this next... Excuse me. Come on in, sir. This next census is looking to cost us between $13 and $16 billion. We're employing some 400,000 numerators. And so you can imagine if we can change that, if we can bring that number down, there'd be less of an economic burden for the taxpayer. It's very sensitive right here. Okay, so highlighted everyone. It's not just people that are American. It's your immigrants, it's your immigrant working communities. Everybody who's living in this country, in this state, needs to be counted. That means more dollars for each community as people are accurately represented. Sorry, so... Okay, so there are really 3 main reasons why we have to do this count. One is representation, the congressional seats. There are 4 congressional seats here in Kansas. We want to keep those 4. Ideally, we want to grow them. We want 5. That's not going to happen. We want to keep what we've got. And that means counting everybody we have here. I don't think we're going to lose any seats, don't get me wrong. We want to try and make sure we've got the accurate number to keep the seats we've currently got. In 1992, we had 5 seats. And obviously, we lost one. You guys might remember that better than I do. I'm just talking out of my arse, am I? No, it did happen. I wasn't in this state. Okay, thank you. Okay, I am so sorry about this.
Essentially, they did was they pretty well doubled the size of the first Big First, did they
Yeah.
not? And included Manhattan and
Now, feel free, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, just to jump in. If you have any questions, stop me, and I'll try my best to answer your questions. The second big thing, of course, is money. The last decennial dictated that we appropriated $6 billion annually, or just over $6 billion annually for the state. The top 5 programs that were funded by that money is up there, but we actually, that money funds some 55 federal programs, from WIC to road construction. This next decennial will dictate that same appropriation, hopefully more. We will see. There's no way to find out until that happens. Okay. These are some of the other programs that the federal monies funds. Head Start, National Schools to Lunch program. One of the big ones is the Pell Grant. We have so many students in this state that depend on the money that comes via those appropriations. There you go. Getting it. So how does the census and accurate count benefit your community? Legislation, we just talked about that. House of Representatives, local government, public safety. That's the other component. So you've got your first is your congressional seats, second is money coming to the state, but how that money is spent is how good that count is, but also the planning. So if you've got businesses that are trying to move into your area, they're going to look at your local demographics, or just how many people you have. Businesses like Target have numbers that need to be met before they'll even consider moving into local communities. But even smaller businesses will look at the data collected in the census. Okay, so there's some 120 million residential homes that will get mail. If your home has a P.O. box and not a mailbox, it will not get the census mail out. And so this is one of those hard-to-count communities, and you've got so many, I imagine in this area, you've got so many farmers that don't necessarily have mailboxes, they have P.O. boxes. I could be wrong. Am I wrong? No. Okay. And so we've got to identify those hard-to-count people, because this will be the first decennial that we can go online. I'm sorry? Can I have anything?
There's a lot of farm P.O. boxes as well.
And so if we can identify those people, it makes our lives a lot easier, and it reduces the amount of enumerators we're going to need to be out here. In fact, for the state of Kansas, we're looking to hire 4,500 enumerators. But if there's a high count, a low response rate, I think for this area is like 17%. If it's lower than that, we will know those numbers beforehand come April the 1st, and fewer enumerators will need to come out here. And of course, again, that'll reduce the economic burden. I'm not speaking too fast, am I? Okay.
Could you just go to the post office and get a list of the people that have post office boxes?
And that's what they will be doing. So when I say they're not going to mail to the P.O. box, they'll still have flyers that will go there advertising that the census is up and coming. But most people will see one of those little cards that comes from the census, and they'll probably throw it away. I don't know if you are most of those people, but I know when I get cards I'm not familiar with in my P.O. box, I'll chuck it. And so that makes it difficult to actually get the message across of the importance of the census. Did I answer your question there, Michael?
Yeah, In other words, if you have a post office box, you're not gonna get the form that you need to fill out.
You're not going to get the form. And
Thought you did in the past,
there's an American survey which is different than the census. It's much bigger. You actually think of the census you got in the past?
but I can't recall.
Okay. Well, anyhow, this is the first decennial where you can do it all online. So if you've got internet access, you can do it from the comfort of your own home. And you will get prompts. You will get those little cards that will tell you the census is coming up. Please go online. Please fill it out. So this next slide talks about those 10 questions. What I'd like to tell people is you shouldn't be anxious about giving this information over, because if you've got a mobile phone, internet, you've signed a bank loan, you've already given that information away. The fact that I have a mobile phone, I give this information away on a regular basis, conscious or not. Okay, so some of the problems that we face and the reasons why we have these hard-to-count communities, other than what I've just mentioned, are that there's, amongst some communities, anxiety about government, and maybe you've experienced that yourself. Don't want to talk to you because of your government. I don't want to give my information away to you. I feel threatened. And so one of my jobs is to try and help people form, or communities form a complete count committee, whereby trusted members of the community form the outreach, rather than that government employee knocking on somebody's door. If you can get the message across to people that if you just filled the information out online yourself, it would make everybody's life a lot easier. It's not going to take you more than 10 minutes to fill out that information, depending on how many people are in your household. And so, if we can get that message out to the hard-to-count communities, it'll be easier all round. Any questions? Okay. So I just talked about the Complete Count Committee. You're removing the government entity, or as best you can, because you are the trusted voices. If you look at some of your libraries, many of the libraries have already set up some Complete Count Committees. I don't see any in this area, but if that is something you want to look into, you can always contact somebody like myself and we can help you set it up. Okay, so this is the, if you go to Rome, which is a data set, a GIS data set we have, on the 2020 Census Data webpage, you can find out who your local CCCs are, and maybe one of you can tell me where that little dot is.
It's Colby.
Colby. They are the only, well, in a huge region that actually have a CCC, and if you wanted to reach out to Colby, that information is also on the website, who is responsible for that CCC, so you can also form one yourselves. Excuse me. And so, Response Outreach Area Mapper, if you have internet and you want to check out this information about all the surveys that have gone on in the past, so you get an idea of where those hard-to-reach communities might be within your community, this is the place to do it. Information from the Kansas Data Center, the surveys that you might get, that American Household Survey, the last census, that all goes onto this plot GIS graph, and it will give you information with regards to what your response rate is, has been, and is predicted to be. And so if I can, so this should be your tract right here. If I can just. For some reason the map isn't coming up, but your tract is 9502. So the census tract is determined by how many people you have in a particular area. If it's less than 1,200, it gets amalgamated with another tract. If it's more, it grows bigger. And shrinks, sorry. And so you have in your tract 2,677 people. I don't know how accurate that is. We all believe that the census is accurate, as accurate as it can be, but only you will know, and the community will know just how accurate this information is. It says at the bottom here that you have 6.46% Hispanic. I don't know if that's true. But again, you don't want somebody like myself coming out here knocking on doors to find out. It's better if you do it, or trusted members in the community. Okay, we are hiring. I mentioned up earlier, there are some 4,500 positions available. I will leave that information here so that if you have people in your community that want to step up and work for the census for a few months, pays pretty well. Can't tell you exactly what it pays here, but I can find out for you if you want that information. Okay. Talked about tailoring your message earlier as part of the CCC if you were to form it, what information you would have to give out, who you would need to talk to, identifying those hard-to-count populations. These are the resources, and in fact, you have this PowerPoint, Leela, and so if you would like to, you can share that. That information is all available for you. And what's next? Back to that CCC. Do you have any questions of them? Was that too much? Too quickly? No?
What level of participation do you want from the city council? Just getting the information out?
So ideally, it's difficult for you guys to actually be on another committee. I understand how busy your jobs are. And so if you can identify who would be a good candidate to maybe chair a complete count committee and who should be on that complete count committee, if you identify the chair, I can come out and help them find out who should be better equipped to be on that committee just by looking at some of the data that I showed you earlier.
Is this a new way of doing it, or is this the way it was done at the last
In
census?
2010, we did the complete count committees and they seemed to work exceptionally well. And so that's why
Was there one in Cheyenne County at that? Do you reckon?
Yes.
Have you ever heard that before, anybody?
That's what I was wondering. So we have something to go by. I mean, do you have that information of who it was?
Who was?
Who the individuals were that in the community?
I'm not
Yes.
sure Cheyenne County had. Maybe they did.
Well, when I looked at the 2020 census setup, it looked like they had one for 2010 as well, and they were the same people in that committee. And so I don't think it's a copy and paste, but I will certainly share that information with you, unless you want to go online and find it yourself. But I'll leave my card here, and if you have any questions, I can forward that information on to Leela.
You said that those names are online?
Yeah, they're all online. And so if you start a CCC, the main chair, that contact individual, that information will be online. And so when you go to that, if I can go back there, it's not the best quality, I apologize for that. Okay, so if you go back to that map, if you go to 2020 census CCCs, you will put in your zip code, the state, this will come up. And just below this image, you've got all the contacts. So every one of those dots is represented by a contact information and who that person is.
But for the 2010 one, that's what I was wondering about. How can we
And
find
so
that?
I can find that out, but if you called that person, they would let you know too.
I know Milton Lampy in 2010 was involved with the census, and I can't remember who else, but I know he wouldn't be able to do it now, but
Okay. Any questions about what the census is? Any quandaries you might have you want to air? Caveat to all that, I can't express any political opinions in my answers.
but the question's not going to be on the census.
Which one?
The question's not going to be on the
No,
census.
it's not.
No.
Okay, all good?
All right, yep.
Okay, well, thank you all for your time. I really appreciate it. And we'll hang around, so if you have any questions back there, please come and see me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we close this down? Turn
Sure.
those lights back on?
Yeah.
Give our website, a link on our website.
Yeah, they actually sent, I've got a lot of information that the census sent us for creating social media type
Yeah.
information. And so some of it had to do with the website, and I just have to figure out how to get it on there, Facebook, all kinds of stuff. So I have
You know, I was going to ask, when he was talking about post office box, I get a lot of mail to my physical address, but the postmaster puts it in my P.O. box.
Well, if you have a physical address and you also have, and that well, in fact, they will send you mail to the census will send you mail to your physical address. They won't send it to your P.O. box.
They won't.
No, they won't. They
It's
should.
too bad they don't.
I don't know what the real reason why. I think it's got a lot to do with how they formulate that data, because they need that base plate, and that base plate is how many residential homes are out there. And so when you've got all those homes, those physical addresses, that's where the mailing list goes to, rather than inundating a post office with those same census information. That's not a very good qualifying
Yeah,
answer.
But you're saying that they will recognize the fact that I get my mail in a post office box, even if it's addressed to my physical address.
If you have a physical address, that's where they'll send it. And if you have a PO box also, they're not going to send it to the PO box, just your physical address. Now, am I help that answer?
That-
No,
that-
no.
that's
Okay.
They're gonna send it to my physical address, but I'm gonna pick it up in my post office box.
Yeah,
That's where I
I
pick
get
up my
mail
mail.
like that a lot.
Oh, I see. Sorry, I've always had, I've had both a PO box and a physical address, but my physical address has a mailbox. And so I would get it in my mailbox. If you don't have a mailbox, I think that's the distinguishing thing here. If you don't have a mailbox, then it's not going to go to your physical address. It's only going, and it can't go to your PO box. And so the only thing that's going to go to your PO box is more than likely the cards, the advertisement saying you can fill this out online. Does that help?
Yeah.
It doesn't help me filling it out online, I can tell
You
you
can,
that.
you can give them a phone call as well.
Build me a mailbox.
Yeah, because there's very few people here in town that have a mailbox out on the route.
Right.
Very few people. So most of us will be getting a card.
Now, what's internet like out there? Do we have, is it spotty? Do you have good internet service?
Yeah.
Okay, so
No, it's not,
that's not going to be an issue then.
no. You just get our mail at the post office.
Yeah.
You get your mail there, you get all the information about what's going on in town, you get a lot of stuff at the post office.
Yeah. It's a social event, pick up your mail.
Oh, it is? Okay.
But there is a lot of retired, older people, including, not like my mom, where it'll never be filled out. Not online.
No.
But she can also make that phone call too. If
She
that's-
won't make that either, because she just won't. She just won't.
She would, if she got the booklet or the form in the
Right.
mail, in the post office box, she would fill it out.
But
I
she
don't
doesn't
know.
do anything online, and
Are they afraid of fraud? Is that, I mean, what's, I don't see the rationale of.
Not delivering to a PO box.
Yeah.
I don't have a really good answer for why they
Especially in
don't.
rural America.
But I can find out. There has to be an answer for it. I'm sure the question's been asked before.
How many people here have a post office box, have a mailbox?
Oh,
So you've got one, all the rest of us pick up our mail at the post office box.
Yeah, I'll find what that answer is. There has to be a real good reason as to
I think
why
it's
it's not
fraud
sent.
or-
Mhm.
Would they allow, like in Scott's example, would they allow Scott to call in the information on his mother?
I could fill it out online, and they would never know.
No.
So,
You know, I could fill it out for her, I could just, say,
so the online, what happens here is when you get that card, it's got like a geocache locator on it. So basically, you've got this digitized number that you associate with your information of your home. Now, if you don't have it, it doesn't stop you from still filling it out. But what's going to happen is you've got all these addresses in this database, and if you've got 4 to 5 different entries for the same address, they're probably going to take the most complete one.
That makes sense.
you know.
Anything else?
I'm just,
yeah. It's gotta be a complicated matter. I can't imagine.
it's
I thought the census used to be you went door to door.
That's part of the financial economic burden we're talking about. You've got so many people we need to hire. And if you think about what, a 3% unemployment rate, very few people want to work for the government or can afford to work for the government for 3 months. And so it might even be just super difficult for us to actually get to that amount of people to start knocking on doors. So there's a lot of problem we may face down the road here. Who knows? Maybe we can hire enough people. Or maybe because this is the first time we have the internet as a means to fill out this information, we might not need so many people.
Remember when we was going around getting it for the moderate to low income deal?
Survey, yeah.
There were some people who actually refused to give me the information. You can tell that they did not.
But they're not at.
And I was a city councilor.
Yeah.
But
But that's more concerned about giving financial
Yeah.
information rather than statistical information.
Yeah.
But still, it's hard to communicate with people that just don't want to know. You know, I take myself as an example. When I was earning less than $30,000 a year and living in a residential rental property, my time was spent trying to earn more money. The last thing I want was somebody in a government suit knocking on my door for my information, because that's my time and my information. And I'm ignorant as well. I was ignorant at the time because I didn't know why you want my information. And so it's a difficult job to be able to explain in a nutshell why the information is important and how it actually benefits you, especially in a lower income bracket, if you just fill this information out and not have people knocking on your door.
Would the people that knock on the door in Cheyenne County have to be Cheyenne County people?
Yes.
Yeah. And what do you do with the Hispanics? Some people don't understand it much.
And so we have partnership specialists who are Latin American. And so the idea is that they try and bridge those communities, those information gaps, the same as I would in a hard-to-count community of just English-speaking people.
Because that's where the undercount comes in. That's with the Hispanic services.
And you're right, and if you look at places like Garden City, they believe they were vastly undercounted in the last census, and they probably were. But it's how do you encourage people to come to the table that are living in a time when they feel anxious about government?
Especially in this environment.
Yep.
It's pretty contentious. We good? Yep. Okay, thank you all for your time, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Does anybody have any more questions? Why don't, unless you want to sit around, David, and listen to the rest of our meeting, you're welcome to go anytime you want, Dan.
Well, how long do we usually wait here for? Just for 20 minutes left, another hour?
No, it'll be
Hour and a half.
hour and a half probably.
Really?
Maybe two.
Okay, I would love to hang around, but there is a storm coming.
Yeah, that's why I thought if you want to get moving down the road, you might as well.
Are you going back east tonight?
Well, I was going to go to Goodland. They have a hotel there, but I'm probably going to cancel that.
I would.
Yeah.
I could get out
I'd rather be
like
with my family.
Tomorrow morning might not be
If you've
good.
ever been on I-70 with the wind and the snow blowing, you need to go.
Okay. I might do just that. I'm going to leave my information here as well. If you have any questions at a later date, please feel free to give me a call, send me an email.
Cool. Okay.
Before we go anywhere, anybody in the audience? Feel good? Okay, thank you. Thank you all very much for your time.
Thank you.
Cody, if you want to come up, we'll get you moved in here now.
We'll start with the
Okay.
law enforcement report. Hopefully this time I made enough
Thank
for
you.
everybody. I know my back, I don't.
Thank you.
So the first 2 pages on this is what the sheriff's office has done in St. Francis. The last page is what Jonathan has done as a single officer in St. Francis. Pretty self-explanatory. There's a few parameters as we keep working with Interpool to make this work really good, so when I come into you guys' meeting, I can give you guys definite, this is what happened in St. Francis. But if you notice, you guys really probably don't care how many VIN inspections we did, but that's the way it enters into the computer. It's going to come out as a stat. There's really no way just to kind of section that type of stuff off. But That's kind of the newest, greatest that we've worked with Interpool to get the stats just for St. Francis. As I said before, our old parameters at the sheriff's office was basically Wheeler to Colorado was considered St. Francis for us on a call, and vice versa. So now we have just the city limits of St. Francis, the zip code, or not the zip code, 'cause that's what we did before, but just the city limits. So,
How would you make a butt call to 911? How does that happen?
oh, it happens all the time. People, when your phone, on your cell phone, when you play with it, you can dial 911 with the screen being locked. I probably shouldn't do it to make the dispatcher mad. But you can do an emergency call. Like if I got to start fingerprint stuff. See if I can try to get it to not open. Okay, so right there on my passcode, you see the emergency button? If I push that, it would dial 911.
Oh, okay.
So if it's sitting in my pocket and the screen gets touched twice, or the button gets touched, and it's not the passcode, that screen comes up, and it touches it again, it'll call an emergency 911. So that's why, and that's an industry name, is a butt dial. That's the industry
They really
name.
call it.
Because people carry their cell phone, butt dial. But it is a huge issue in the 911 field when we go to trainings and stuff. How are we going to lower the number of butt dials? How can we incorporate technology with the cell phone companies to lower these number of calls? Because not so much for us, but for bigger agencies, they are a burden because they're getting hundreds of them a day. And we get a butt dial. We just don't, somebody calls, there's no voice. That's still cause for alarm for us. So we try to track that down to see, is this somebody who's having a heart attack that can't talk, what's going on? We try to disconnect and then try to call the number back, and that's usually when you find out, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to call 911 or something. So we work hard to reestablish a connection with that number to make sure everything's okay. So when you see a butt dial, it seems like a simple thing. Actually, it takes a lot of work on the dispatcher's part when they get a butt dial because they work hard to ensure that that is not an actual emergency, that nothing bad is going on. So we do document them as a call because it does generate work. And if we can't get a hold of the person and we have a location, we'll send a deputy to that location. If we have an address, we'll send a deputy to that address just to check out to make sure everything's okay.
I'm amazed that there's worthless checks. You got 10 of them.
Mm-hmm.
I thought with debit cards and everything nowadays, it wouldn't,
Yeah.
bad checks are still a problem.
Mm-hmm. This is we've had, I'm not saying things are bad. Things are not all that bad, but you can always tell an economic indicator how things are going on the sheriff's office, how many papers we're serving, bad check cases, things like that. But yeah.
Those bad checks are probably returned ACHs as well, though, aren't
No,
No.
we don't have anybody come in to turn in an ACH. I mean, theoretically they could, but most of the time our bad checks are actually forged, or not forged, written documents.
they?
So,
Gotcha.
And I think there's, any time that you advertise or you do something, there's an uptick. We sat down with the county attorney and decided how are we going to do these bad check cases that came in. And we formulated a way we wanted to do it, and then we mailed a letter out to all the businesses and said, this is the way we want to do this, and this is the way it's going to work really good. We noticed as soon as we sent that letter out to the businesses, boom, they all started reporting bad checks. I don't know if they just sat on them before and didn't think anybody was going to help them with it or what, but once we gave them the information of this is how we want to proceed, this is what we need you guys to do as a business, and this is how you get them entered as a bad check. Boom, we just started getting bad checks left and right. So sometimes, advertising does bring business in. Like I said, I don't know if some of these businesses just wrote it off as a loss before or what, but we started getting a lot of bad checks after we mailed that out and delivered it to a lot of businesses. So. The questions over.
If you want the enforcement capability, the criminal penalties, you've got to follow the procedure.
Yeah, and that's
Notice and stuff.
that's what we're having issues with some business owners who are being very kind and very understanding, as they are in a small town. They hang on to that check for almost a year, trying to get the person to pay back, and then they come in and turn it in, and that's kind of one of the things in the letter was, you can't be hanging on to them that long if you expect us to help you at the end. And, we still give them a chance, and our policy procedure is, then they get a letter from the sheriff's office that says, hey, you had a bad check, you have X amount of time to take care of this before criminal action is made against you. So,
Usually gets their attention.
yeah. So, it's not like we just go out and arrest them the next day. So. Any,
Anybody else have any questions?
Thanks for what you're doing.
thank you.
Okay.
I have for a report. We got the technology changed. Jonathan is, we're still the St. Francis Police Department, but Jonathan before was working over here by himself in a lonely, dark corner. We're getting him moved over where we have an extra workstation at the sheriff's office. He's going to start working out of there, and I think that'll help on some of the stuff we have going on. So.
Can you drive around the sheriff's bureau too?
Yeah, he had to use it a little bit. But no, and that's the thing, I sent him to Oberlin for mental health first aid training. It was a free class that came up, so I sent him there. Trying to get him up to speed in training, and I've used him a couple times. We used him on that fire. We had him out by Wheeler, stopping traffic, some things like that. Kind of that. Getting kind of moved into, nothing's official yet, of trying to see how things are going to work, doing things.
I'm sure that's important, right?
Yes.
I feel like it's part of the
Yes,
game.
so that's one of the other reasons to get him moved across there is, like I said, he's all alone and over here working by himself. Getting to feel like he's part of the team, kind of understand what's going on, work with everybody.
And he needs supervision.
And he needs supervision. So,
On the law enforcement agreement, county attorney has reviewed it and has made some suggestions, and we'll finalize that. And I think, didn't the committee meet?
Yeah, we've had.
We just visited with that in executive session later on, and
Yep.
because we're still looking at January 1 to get these.
yes, I would like to have it done January 1st. And in the meantime, I received a copy of the city ordinances. I think we kind of figured out what we're going to do. We were kind of at a loss with all the ATVs and side-by-sides because they're going to come for renewal pretty fast. So I think we got that worked out, and we have a couple ordinances on without power and stuff like that I need to meet with. I can see what we're going to do. Try to get some of the city ordinance stuff cleaned up and start working on that kind of stuff as a team. So.
Okay, anything else?
Is Kat going to be doing, who's going to be filling out the paperwork for like the ATVs and all of that?
Eventually, it'll be Kat and myself will be the two that'll be doing it. And I guess if, the chances of us being both gone are going to be, all day, it's going to be kind of slim. I think we're just going to leave it at that. And I think it's one of those things, if you try to spread it across too many people, they're ready to be like, where'd the notebook go? Where's this at? So we'll just be the ones doing the inspections and the paperwork. And then the big thing is the whole file is in one place. And I'm sure Lila wants a file over here also. Is that something you'd want? Like when we do a tag, and something I need to talk to you about since you asked all that. When we make a tag, there's that piece of paper. We put that in a 3-ring binder. Is that something you also want a copy of at City Hall? I mean, we can run it over.
So we don't now. Over in City Hall, we would just take the payment and then send it over to the police department, and they kept the records.
Yeah. And I have no problem doing whatever. If you want us to take the payment, we can get a receipt book that's just for the city, write a receipt, and then we can just bring that money over to you guys, give it to you, or would you rather them still pay here and then come over? It doesn't matter one way or the other to me.
I think the auditors would prefer for us to take the money here.
It's whichever way works for you guys. I'm willing to do. I just want to make sure the information goes back and forth. So,
Right.
I think you guys are up to, I think we gave out number 35 of the year, is that right? So it's not a whole bunch, is what I'm trying to say, but I'm sure it's just like anything else, we renews after the first year, so there'll be a rush after the first,
Yeah.
so. But just kind of figuring some of that little stuff out is been really good, and I think we've worked good trying to get stuff figured out.
Yeah.
Thanks for your guys' help with the fire stuff too.
Do you have anything else for me, or
I don't think so.
do you need me to stick around for?
No, you don't need to stick around, so thank you, and we'll get back with you on the contract, and might be able to have it done, or get it over, because the commission's meet Wednesday, so.
And I got on the agenda to talk about this. If you guys don't get it figured out, I'll just tell them to take me off, but
I'm hoping we get it figured out.
thank you guys.
I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. I guess, do I hear a motion to accept the police report or sheriff's report?
So moved.
Moved by Amanda, second by Roger, all in favor? Good. Okay. Ellen?
I just wanted to give a very brief update on one of the things that we're doing in the office, and it has to do with rural and remote, which is working remotely from your home. And we've been working with a company out of Texas, with Cade Wilcox. There are several people that are looking for jobs, and hopefully some people would move in, want to work out of their homes. So we did a seminar Saturday with Cade Wilcox, and we had 15 people in the community attended, which is really good. And I think some of those are very serious about it. Some of them just came to see what the program was. But one of the good things about it is the training, if you're qualified, will be paid for by Dane Hansen Foundation. So that cost is eliminated if somebody wants to work out of their home. And the other thing is, we had our annual meeting the other night, and we decided that we probably needed some more funding for the office. So we kicked off our Cheyenneopoly, which is based on the Monopoly game. And we have little squares that people can purchase. And then we'll be selling a game for $30. And I'll just pass. This is the information on the prices. And we try to make it affordable for all the businesses and organizations and cities and counties that they want to do. The prices go from $500 down to $50. And just wanted to let you know what we're doing and see if you'd like to participate, or if you know of anyone that might be interested. Several businesses have already signed up. And just kind of started doing this, and hopefully we're going to do 500 copies of the game, sell them for $30, and we're hoping to raise between $10,000 and $15,000. And the games hopefully will be back by March the 29th. The deadline to get your ads in is January the 10th. And Colby just started selling theirs. Phillipsburg has also done this, but it's just been a really good fundraiser for the communities. It's a place where the businesses can get their advertising out, and as people play the game, then they see what businesses there are. And so it goes from a name on the money to just a listing your name for $50.
Can I pass this around?
Pass it around and
So they're going to have on the front of it, like, different things.
on the front of it, on this part, we'll have some photos.
Right.
And then on the game itself, there'll be probably one big photo and maybe some small ones. So we're limited. We can do 4 photos, I think, on each one of those.
What's the money look like? What's the money look like?
It's just regular Monopoly money. It is.
Then how's it, my vehicle's on.
Okay, so here, I'll just pass this around. They're just, we just have the business name on it. That one is already spoken for $500, which was great. And then on the cards, you just have the business name on the back of them. And So far, the response has been really good. A lot of people are interested in doing it. We just haven't gone and talked to everybody yet. So hopefully there'll be an article coming down the newspaper about it, and we're kind of going door to door with some of the businesses also. And we certainly thank you for the support that you've given us and the relationship we have, and appreciate it.
Might be something to consider, putting the city on there in some capacity, the city logo or something. Could be. I'm with you.
And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. And if not, have a happy Thanksgiving.
Thanks, Ellen.
Any comments on the meeting the other night in Hill City?
The Northwest Kansas Planning and Development and Pioneer Country Development and Northwest Kansas Housing had their annual meeting the other night. Things went very smoothly at the meeting. Randall Raby gave a presentation that showed the projects that were completed throughout the year, and got the door prize, and that was pretty much that meeting. The new officers for Pioneer Country Development will take office in January. The meeting will be last Wednesday of the month, and I would encourage everyone and anyone that can make it to be at that meeting. We will have a county commissioner there for sure, but there have been some concerns with the organization, so we'll see what happens.
There was some discussion about the Empire property and whether or not maybe the city ought to deed that to the Cheyenne County Development. I talked with you briefly about it. I talked with Scott about it. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, if we had a lot of money, we might accept that, but we would have to pay taxes and insurance, and we don't actually have that as a budgeted item. Would be my first thought, not talking to the board.
Yeah. Taxes?
We'll have to file for exemption with the taxes for this. That would, I guess, put on the intent of what the property is being used for, if it was used for exempt purposes, whether they would grant it or not. And I know municipalities, there's no filing fee, but it would, I don't know on 501c, if there'd be a filing fee or not, but it would cost money to.
It would take the politics out of it. It's basically, for the government, basically, we would just convey it to them, but we take the politics out of it.
But could we dictate that it had to be a motel?
We could,
That's what you mean by politics.
and economic development, it would be, obviously the board's decision as to whether or not whatever the offer was going to satisfy the goals of Cheyenne County Development Corporation. It's just a thought.
I think we would probably, we can talk about it at our next board meeting, check on what the taxes would be, and also check on what the insurance would cost. Those would be two issues that I see that, we don't have a budget at all. I don't want to spend all the money from this game on that,
If you don't want it, just tell us you don't want it.
It's an interesting thought, but it's a board decision. So Jason, keep that under your hat.
Well, it's just, the council had decided it.
Yeah.
Did they tax fund the building downtown? So they would probably.
Or for 501c4.
Because it'd be developed, it'd be a vacant lot. Well,
I did see what the taxes would be.
Okay. And like I said, I can check on insurance, and the board meets the first Friday of the month, and we can bring it up then and talk about it.
well,
And see what the board says.
Is it even possible to say to maintain ownership and just let the director, where it's essentially that's what we're looking for, is to take away from city council and private business, right? So if we just silently held that, then they wouldn't have to transfer ownership. Control any community
I think the council would like to take the political issue out of it.
Okay.
It's good, but
Okay, well, I'll run it by them. And Scott, where are you with filling out that paperwork?
That's what we're doing right now.
That's what you're
why,
doing now.
that's why
Okay.
we had this question is
Okay,
on that, so.
Yeah.
Maybe like what JR is saying would be the way to go. If we still, but we let them handle it.
and we already should, kind of listed with China.
Right.
She's looking at her commission now. Well,
No, I'm just legal to write contracts, that's all.
okay. Well, we'll go ahead and get that information so that you can put that out.
Okay. All right, and I'll see what they say. Okay, thanks, and have a great Thanksgiving.
Okay, Al.
Okay, the next item there is that ordinance 620, truck routes.
Visual representation. I think we had some discussion on that, Benton Street, the last one. The problem with designating it as a truck route is it's so narrow. And there's always parking on there, having it. And the flip side is now if it's not, is it enforcing it not because it's a straight shot to the elevator. I honestly don't know what the best way to do it is. It's too narrow a street to say this is a good truck route.
It is narrow. It is narrow. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's narrow with just two vehicles, maybe when there's vehicles parked.
Yeah, it's a stop and go, 100 people parked on those sides.
And you put a truck in there and it really gets narrowed up.
Well, basically, if you go down College Street to North Street and over, it accomplishes the same thing.
How do you enforce it? We put up signs, essentially, just like the ordinance says. We put up signs that says this is the truck routes, and,
And how does that come up in, like on your Google Maps?
it's just going to give you the quickest route. I mean, I don't think you get a truck route anyway. But that always is the shortest route or the fastest route, I think, are going on options on that.
And I think if the guy would, if we type up something and give it to the co-op and those, the elevators and stuff, and they could hand it out, because a lot of those trucks are the same trucks all the time. So once they know what the truck routes are, they would surely start taking, right at first, it's going to be hard. But I think if they could hand them out, even this right here, plus a little, or both, you know, saying, here's the truck routes now, start using them. And it's going to take a year before we ever get to that point where they're really using them. But a lot of those trucks are the same ones.
On so many of those little local delivery ones, ones that park on Main Street, grocery store or whatever, I mean, they're obviously going to off-street areas or whatever. It's heavy grain trucks that are really the issue as far as the streets are concerned.
There's not much of on Washington Street in the truck route. That's going to be a,
That's covered by the ordinance.
That's, yeah.
Delivery,
Local
allows
delivery. Oh, yeah. Not designated as a, so these are through routes from point A to point B. If you're actually on a delivery outside of those, you use these to get to that area.
You know, look at 3807 on the ordinance, second page.
And Mike wrote that, so we need that.
Roger, you should have a copy of it there. You should have a copy of the ordinance there in your file.
oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was on.
Yeah, I know, it's,
Yeah, there was a truck this morning there early at 8 o'clock. They were parked in front of Bowling's. Dennis office, it was a hopper truck. I don't know why he would park there. I don't think he was there for a little bit. I don't know if he ran something into the bank right at 8 o'clock or whatever, but he was parked side, and then Dave had another truck down there like he usually does, no need that. I don't know what that one truck is there for, just standing.
Well, and from the standpoint of enforcement, there's always going to be somebody going from point A to point B that doesn't use this. We can get a large percentage of, or, you know, get the exposure to the majority of the repeat trucks. Hopefully we'll have a positive effect on our streets.
If we ever get to 80% of them using this, we're doing good. Because there'll always be somebody new coming to town.
So you post the truck routes, strictly, the truck route signs strictly on the truck route.
Why get it off, leave it bent off?
Again, one.
I like leaving bent off of it.
Will there be no trucks signs posted on all these other streets off of 36?
No truck?
Yeah, like on Benton and Crutchy.
I think we just mark the truck route is what you have to do.
Yeah, where you can go, not where you can't go. That would be tremendous.
That signs coming into town. Truck routes enforced.
Those
by
have to be on
community.
36.
Yeah.
Definitely. Those at the 2 locations.
Where so many trucks do use Benton, though, I wonder if there'd be a way to, just on that one, because right now that's the one that so many of them use, to say no, don't use this one.
On your signs, you could get the sign that says no truck.
Yeah, I guess specifically to that one, that might make sense. I think everywhere else it probably,
They have some responsibility if
Yes.
they see the sign.
but the fact that that is a direct route through and also to an elevator, and also to a county road, if anybody used to using it, it seems strange for it not to be, other than from the public safety standpoint, it's just too narrow.
And of course, part of Benton Street is a truck route from North Street. You go to College to the north, and then you go to Benton, you come south again.
And it had to be from there, because otherwise you can't get to the elevator. You know, Jackson's not ideal either, but that's how they got the best way to get there, I think. Yeah, I think the no trucks on the bend might be a good idea at the highway, and then just truck routes at the river and college.
Randy told me once that there was a lot of them use Emerson Street right now. So, after leaving the co-op,
After leaving the co-op, I could see that happening, yeah.
I don't know if that's an option for us that we want to consider, but he did tell me that there's a lot of trucks.
So I think what we try to do is establish Jackson. I think you're still going to have trucks on there, but keep it to a minimum. I think was trying to keep, it's kind of the gist. Because they're going to use this block and that section within these areas no matter what, some of them are.
But they would have easy access to either river or Triangle Road. They might have to make a turn, but
I think all their access is there without putting Emerson in it, is kind of what I was getting at. Anything?
yep.
Any other questions on it? Do I hear a motion to approve the ordinance 620 for truck routes?
So moved.
Been moved by Amanda. Second by Roger. You need to vote on that. Cale?
Yes.
Amanda?
Yes.
Roger?
Yes.
Larry?
Yes.
Passes.
Maybe if you want to maybe get something in the newspaper as well, on that. This piece is already done, so I will put that, yeah.
Now, we're not going to publish the ordinance until a week next week,
Okay.
December 4th.
Okay, yeah.
So we'll
Do
we'll
you,
send you a copy of the ordinance tomorrow.
do you have the one to sign, or did I need to make that?
Yeah, I do.
Oh,
Okay, the next item is this ordinance 621 on the sales tax.
This is the ordinance, basically, ordinance of the governing body of the city of St. Francis imposing a 1% citywide sales tax for general purposes. This was drafted by Gilmore and Bell, Kevin Allen, been talking with them, and this is what they use, and this is what he has recommended. Again, we'll publish it once, December 4th newspaper, and then we have to send it to Secretary of Commerce.
Something Department of Revenue, yeah.
You basically need to pass this after the election. Propose it.
Any questions? Not, do I hear a motion to approve ordinance 621 on the sales tax? Moved by Larry. Second by Roger. Okay, vote, Cale? Yeah. Amanda? Yes. Roger? Yes. Larry?
Yes.
Pass.
You have the certificate, the insert.
For the minutes,
Yeah.
I didn't print it off, but I will. Because I just need to sign that one, I think.
Okay, next item is the tree trim license for Knuckles Tree Care.
He is, they did some work for us last year, but, so they've got their liability insurance, they were just in town. They may have already done the work, I'm not really sure, but, they do have everything that they need for their license.
Where are they from?
Brighton, Colorado, I do believe. Let me look here. Oh, nope, sorry. It says Ulysses, Kansas. I thought they were out of Colorado.
Okay, do I hear a motion to approve the tree trim license from Knuckles Tree Care? Moved by Amanda. Second by Cale. All in favor? Approved. Okay, next thing underneath there, everybody's got a copy of the Jim Riley's proposal on that piece of property out there in the industrial park.
This is one item that's the sale of city property. You can go into executive session if you want to. Yes, ma'am.
Do we want to do this in executive session? We'll just hold this off for a little bit and do it.
You don't
then.
have to, but you can if you want to.
Question. Are grain bins, they pay property tax on them?
They're exempt for the first 8 years. I don't even know about the cost figure, I don't know what exactly they would come in cost-wise in that system, but it would come in high even after.
So they're exempt for 8 years.
So, the only tax they see is after it's depreciated. Figures.
Maybe let's go into executive session on this in a little bit then. Okay, old business, I'm going to go ahead. Jason's not on there, but we have it on the back of our project spending, the internet hotspot, and let him present what he's got here tonight.
I just got today the official quote with the sign-off line and everything for that bill for the internet hotspots at the up at the city park and then also up on the highway. And this is actually for both projects, because the way it was discussed last time, it looked like that was the plan. What this doesn't show is you are getting a 40% discount on whatever service you light up.
Should get it free.
I asked for that, but they offered it for a 40% discount. So this is actually for all the hardware. I did also ask for a discount on the hardware. That's being sold at pretty much cost, but they did knock off hardly like $240 off of the labor for putting it all in. So basically, they just told me I could do it faster, so you don't have to charge as much. So we did get a little bit more of a discount off of it as far as the labor is concerned.
Did we talk about using some of the transit red tax money for this project?
Yeah, I think you guys,
For the roadside parking.
We just talked about the roadside park, I mean, that came in.
Yeah, the roadside park.
right, for up there, but I think you did ask about using the transient guest tax if it could be used. If you can justify that it's tourism, then yes.
There it might be. So that's even down
Just the
here.
installation
How?
cost doesn't include.
This is the bill, right, this would get all the equipment in place, up and running. Right, the only thing that's not represented here, like I said, is just the package price, the monthly package price, which would just be 40% off of whatever the price is for the package that you put on it. And I think you were discussing the 30 meg package, which runs at $60, so maybe whatever, 40% off the package. So
So is the 6253, that's for both locations?
that is for both locations, yes.
And that's with a discount on here?
Yeah, they knocked some of the money off. They just knocked some of the hours off of my labor, is what they did.
Okay.
And you guys had talked about, just a reminder, that you talked about waiting till spring to apply for grant funds. How long is this quote good for?
I was told that it was just an open-ended quote, because originally we had gotten a quote way back when, and it had expired. And so when I asked them for a new one, they just said, look, we're just going to make this one permanent. So they took the expiration date off.
So if we wait to get some grant funding in the spring, this price would still be.
That is my impression, yes. I mean, I can ask to make sure, but that was what I was told originally. Is they just took the expiration date off the quote. So. I just wanted to present the paperwork. So, yeah, if you have any questions, of course, you can contact me, or the official sales rep is actually Marty Amelia. His information's on that back page. You can contact either one of us.
Is that in a format that you could email it to me?
Yes, I actually got it in an email. I'll email it off to you.
That'd be great.
Yep.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Jason.
Jason.
See you, Mark.
Is that what we want to do, is wait till spring to decide on this?
That's what we kind of decided.
That's why we put it on project pending on the back, just to hold off and wait a little bit to see. And,
Having this, though, will be great because I can go ahead and get started on writing the grant and have it ready to go. When we're ready.
I still wonder why we need it down here.
I'm just upset. I have a problem with it there. I come back to, and I know we've been down this road before, but I come back to luxury versus necessity. I know we've been down the road on some bad issues with the pool or whatever you want to look at, but is it critical to do something like this versus fixing one street? Or fixing the crossovers or something along those lines? That's what I'm looking at.
Definitely not. I mean, crossovers are way more important than Wi-Fi.
But if you use the transit tax on the highway deal, I think that would be just.
Oh, you mean the camping fees?
The camping fees, would be improving the park up there.
That's what they were intended for, was to improve the park.
So if we use the fees for that and applied for a grant for the rest of it.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
You think you could get a grant to cover all the installation? Is that
We'll
viable?
need to ask.
Either way, we should probably put it off till spring, you could write the grant,
Go from there.
and go from there.
And then I know, talking about grants, let's talk about trees in the park.
Mm.
People write grants on that.
You said we would do it.
I think so. I had somebody, like me, told me that they'd heard that we talking that, they said, write a grant for it. Because they think, new trees in the park's gonna be a big community for everybody.
They want a lot of work foundation.
So we also need to try to, when we get ready to go on the trees, write a grant. Well, let's just put that, still on that project pending, it's on there, so. Okay. Sunflower agreement.
Okay, at the last meeting we discussed, I thought there was one part of that that was a little bit different than what I'd originally understood it. And I was incorrect. It was pretty much the way it had been described throughout the time, and what that was the time frame on the cheapest rate. However, they did change it to reflect what I thought it was. So with the first 5 years is at the lower energy cost, the subsequent 3 years, and then the final 9 years are as they described prior. So it is correct to what I'd understood it to be from the beginning. It's a really large contract. Obviously went through a lot to get to this point. I'm going to suggest we go ahead and sign it. I think just because it's such a long-term contract, it's complicated, and maybe none of us will be here, at the time at which this thing would get reviewed at some point in time. Once we sign this, I think I want to file all the research and all the information that went into making this decision, just so it's understood. These things are complicated, and of course, with people turnover and things changing, sometimes it gets looked at later. Just think all that information should be with it. Whatever the case, that's the one, I think, the mayor signed that, the tab is on the signature page, and then I think there's a date thing on the front page for that.
Is our new pricing taking effect?
It will be retroactive to October 1, actually, as soon as we get this returned to them.
Okay, do we hear a motion to sign the sunflower agreement? Moved by Amanda. Second. Second by Roger. All in favor? Do we need to vote on this?
Yes.
Okay. Gail?
Oh, no, not it, no, I think that's a motion.
Okay, so it passed.
I'm assuming you're going to detail all the terms of
I can.
bids. That's a 1,000-year contract that they'll have.
That Mike today is for responsibility for, and
So it'll be
I
retroactive.
did it as before, but I had no idea.
So does that
so
mean,
like
we'll
any
get
other contract is
does that mean we'll get a credit on our
Yes.
bill, or?
Yes, yeah, we'll be credited back as if we was in this rate structure for the month of October and November.
You want to get back in your file?
Do you remember what
I'll
the-
just give you a copy of it along with this information.
Do you remember what the price was the first 5 years, or
What's that?
do you know what the cost was?
Well, the cost of the energy is 15 cents. That's the only part that we was going over. The actual savings on it was comparatively, do you want that information? I can find it. Sure.
Is it in here, or?
No, none of that. All that is the details of the cost of the ongoing contract. The comparative has to do with what KMEA presented. That's why all this goes with that, because that's how we come to the decision.
Right.
I have a question as far as to, what are you going to do with the difference now that you're getting the cheaper rate?
Back into the electric. I mean, and that's just my opinion, that should all go back into the infrastructure. That's all up to the city council, but I'm going to push very hard to have it go back into the infrastructure of the electricity, that's where we generate that revenue.
Okay, that's what we all kind of agreed on a long time ago.
So the electric utility,
I'm shocked.
the electric utility actually carries everything as is. And would continue to do so in its normal generation. Like I said, I just hate to see that melt into a general fund and the infrastructure. And I that's just an opinion.
I guess what I'm asking is, does that stay in the same fund, or do you have to separate that out?
No, it all goes into the electric utility, which
And then
then,
it transfers into the general fund and you spend it.
and it subsidizes the general fund, and that's how it keeps from operating on taxes.
That makes sense.
Okay, the next thing is law enforcement agreement, but I think I'll push that down a little bit further because those two executive sessions will probably take just a little bit. Let's look at the street project.
I don't think we have anything new. I think we're just waiting to get everything put in front of
Electrical infrastructure, kind of waiting on.
So I've made contact with Prairie Land as far as getting information to somebody. They're obviously willing to talk about it, so that's good. See if we can come up with something that's going to be somewhat of a process, because we've got a lot of information where people get much higher price than the engineer, and we've started a conversation.
Property cleanup.
The answer date for the defendants in the former condemnation proceeding expired last Friday, so probably after the holiday, I will be preparing a motion for judgment. We'll go from there.
Okay. Project pending.
I did go last Wednesday to Colby to the second round of local consult KDOT. Mike has followed up with a letter to KDOT, and I think we've gotten their attention. I think they realize that they have some possible ownership up there and that there's some, it's nuts.
Really?
I don't know how many KDOT guys grabbed me, well, Jeff Stewart grabbed me right off the bat and had another engineer that does consultant work with KDOT, and I talked to Jeff Stewart's higher-up boss in Topeka and several other higher-ups in Topeka, and they still want to.
Amanda and I have had several discussions with this. My negotiating tactic, I think, has been, we're going to work with you guys, we appreciate you guys, you're doing a great job, we realize you don't have any money. Amanda's is kick them in the balls. That's the difference that they've had, and that doesn't necessarily have to go on the paper. But I think it's a situation, they see her and they go, oh my God, she's here again.
This press looked on Jeff Stewart's face when I got him in the hall and said, yeah. But in my discussions with them, and I know Jeff Stewart talked to Dave Fleming a little bit, I guess their kind of consensus is maybe getting a feasibility study done to figure out how to address the whole issue. The drainage, the curb and gutter, the access road, not just the crossovers. And of course, my response to that is I don't know why the city has to pay for a feasibility study to figure out how to fix the city's highway. But I think it would come down to us probably, and that's what I told them, you guys have the engineers, you have the people on staff that can do this, but you still are wanting the city to pay the money to get somebody out here to survey. Yeah. I did mention that we probably wouldn't make any decisions until after we figured out if we got that CDBG grant in January before we consider. But that's, in my mind, that's probably the best way to address it is let's figure out what it's going to take to fix all of it, see if there's some reconstruction, redesign of it to make it simpler, easier to maintain.
I think the county needs to be kept in the loop.
And Terry Riker rode with me, and Dave Fleming was there, and so we all three got together with Jeff Stewart, so we're all kind of on the same board as far as
And I think
working
Jeff's
together.
hand in hand with you, right? He's the district, don't you think, Roger? You've had a lot of communication with him.
I think he's the one that probably we still, however, get it fixed. He's the guy you need.
Appreciate the fact that Amanda was able to go that way because I couldn't, and so she went ahead and went down there. And I think that just proved when Jeff saw her that we're not giving up on this. And it's not going to go away, so I think that was a big plus for us. So we just need
on top of it. Probably won't do much until after the first of the year, but come next spring, start in on them again and see where we're gonna go with it.
What are you gonna be able to do after this spring? I mean, how are we gonna convey that you know about this already?
I'm gonna be available, we're not moving, immediately, we're gonna keep it.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
Yeah, no, you're entitled to know what my plans are.
Not just about this.
Yeah, no, well, whoever you have as the city attorney, I'm gonna be available, and, for good or bad. I would be making smart-ass remarks and all that. But, we're gonna keep the house here for the immediate future, because I'm not sure, I'm gonna acclimate to the big city. The grandkids will help me, that's it. So, we haven't made any firm decisions, but we're gonna be around, and I'll be available to the extent that it's wanted.
Can you stay on just to do this?
I would love to do that, other than the fact that I'm going to resign from the bar. I'm going to try to sit down and hold myself. But, whatever is, this is my home, guys. I've been here for.
He's got to drive over that same crap that we do.
And I would have made the announcement earlier to you, but I felt that it needed to go out on a letter to attach clients and clients.
Again, I didn't mean to put you on the spot, and I just heard some knowledge here that's already been established, and they know who Mark Day is, and he can.
No. Who had the building?
You're the one that wrote the letter,
If they know me for it, it's probably nothing to do with him.
Yeah, I think it's good that we stayed on top of it by the letters and by Amanda, and Roger and Amanda and I went down to Hayes. I think we just got to keep showing our face. Okay, let's go to building permits.
We've got two, Randy Smith have it's a temporary fence. It's in conjunction with this neighbor. It's not a big deal. It's built in the case, but it's a temporary fence. He just put in a permit for it. For dogs, it's that in the back for reasons, personal reasons. Kind of hard to tell somebody not to maintain their animals when we constantly get complaints on animals running around. It isn't. It's temporary. It's going to be for any period of time. It'll be changed to a permanent structure.
Census form.
That just seems ridiculous, doesn't it?
I understand what you're saying about the court cases, though, especially when I asked the question about Scotty's mom, multiple things in the same bill, but why you couldn't tie a residence to a PO box?
404 Birch is where I live, half my mail comes post office box. 751 404 Birch.
Yeah, that's what I think. But, I think there are some people probably have multiple post office boxes.
Oh, sure.
That say that go south, something like that. Maybe.
Well, a lot of scams are run through post office boxes, too.
The Reader's Digest stuff they keep sending me a bill for. I think like $3 or something. I don't know, maybe they've never ordered it.
Do you just throw them away, or
Yeah.
take it to the post office?
That's right, they did tell me.
You
take it to the post office, 'cause Nancy, we kept getting 2 or 3 things a week for almost 6, 7, 8 months. They just kept coming and said, this was gonna be due. We just kept taking them in there and denying it. We haven't had one in the last 2 or 3 months. So somehow that word gets out there, but they keep going back to denied. But if you just throw it away, they keep sending it. Do I hear a motion to approve the 2 building permits? Moved by Larry. Second by Amanda, all in favor? Approved. Superintendent report.
I don't have a whole lot this evening. However, I thought, based on our forecast and the fact we're coming into winter, it'd be a good time to review and understand our snow routes, emergency snow routes, and what we have the authority to do. So I made a copy for everybody out of the ordinance. I realize you have this, but just based on the storm coming in, I just wanted everybody to be aware of what it is. And there's also a map here that has the storm routes on it, just so you guys understand where they are and what we do. The yellow is just regular storm routes. We go to the outsides with those. They're too narrow to stack in the middle. Everything in green we put in the middle and attempt all the way. That is, all of this is as it's described in emergency snow routes. The one I'd like to point out, we get into the situation on the side streets when we get a significant storm about I can't get to work, I can't get my 2-wheeler out of the car anywhere. There's a thing called the Declaration of Heavy Snow Traffic Emergency. When on 4-wheel drive and it doesn't have chains, it's illegal to be on the streets. We have that written in. If we get into that situation, I don't know why we wouldn't do that. We kind of get into a mess sometimes when we get significant snow. So in the event we get into a heavy winter where we have repeated acts, I thought it was important for everybody to be informed on what the storm routes are. We can't always wait till the snow's done. Depends on the time of day. It depends on the time of the week. There's so many factors. You can't treat one storm even remotely close to the previous one.
And with that article, you need to put 785-322-4045, the number to call.
Believe me, they've already got it.
I had a lady come in this morning that she's not even on a snow route, but she heard the emergency phone message. I gotta make sure to get my car off the street because there's gonna be snow.
Good.
Like in Colby, I asked them what they do. Basically, it's 4-wheel drive and chains.
Yeah.
They don't clear streets.
But you don't know it's that bad until you get out.
Hey, you pull down to the bottom of your drive and get stuck.
The main thing is that we're all on the same page, because it gets difficult and contentious when we start messing with storm routes and snow, because it's frustrating. If all you have is your car, it's understandably frustrating, but we can't.
I joke about putting down JR's phone number, but I have called him before to get me to work.
That's a complete violation of this ordinance, by the way.
No, it didn't help to get me to work.
Oh, yeah.
I think that was 84 when we had that bad blizzard. I had the 4-wheel drive. I pushed the guy, pulled him out twice that day, just because he had to go to the pool all 2 times. The 3rd time we saw him, we just left him there. He got stuck 3 times. Same day, trying to go to the pool all just so we could play cards. But then he went home for dinner. He did stay down there for dinner. He went home, then tried to get back down there.
Going to the liquor store, that's what we do.
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah, that's different.
I have a question. If you were the mayor, were to declare a traffic emergency, would that be something we would code red out then?
Yes, yep, and specific to that ordinance, I think you basically say if it's not chained or 4-wheel drive, it's not to be out.
So I need to make sure I have access to code red at home.
Yep. And we'll always say the mayor declared it, it will never be me.
That's why it gets the big talk.
Anyway, let me be pulling out of town before you figure that one out.
All the better.
He
declares it.
It's funny how the phone calls get there, too. Oh, yeah. Like the water tower got painted red, I had a phone call real fast. What else you have?
The pool paint, we had that touch up in the black paint. We've gotten a quote from Hamza Anyway, he's the same pool painter that did the thing. Larry, without doing any research at all, signed a contract with him. Got called out, was it Saturday night, 8 o'clock at night? The sheriff was at the pool, arresting the two painters who'd gotten in a fight over what work they were supposed to do, so they both got thrown in jail. The owner come back and finished the work. I've inspected that work. It does seem to be to satisfaction. He repainted the numbers and the lines as described. They did actually do some extra stuff. They weren't supposed to do the numbers, but the guys had already started that. The one issue I have is on the quote that they had provided us originally that Larry signed without asking any questions, said that they had insurance. They don't. We don't think they did. They couldn't provide the insurance today that we require of a contractor to be able to do work. That being said, the work is completed. The city doesn't have any exposure at this point, but you would have to assume we did based on his paperwork that showed he had insurance without providing it. So I don't know whether we want to. I don't know what we do with it. The work has been done to the satisfaction. I don't know. I mean, the work's done. If it was undone, I would think that would be part of that argument. However, yeah.
Now, is this the company that was supposed to be keeping in contact with us?
Yes.
I think there's more reliable company than this.
I'll introduce you all. Yeah, this is the people who was paying for Rose. Yeah, and that's exactly how we fell into this. Like, well, that was the guy that paid it. And we looked
I
at it.
thought I was confident that that was a good service to have.
So was Larry.
Just 3 times.
He told me to
He was just going to try to do a political direct.
No, I think, honestly, to this point, my opinion would be as the work is done, we have a bill, there's, a quote. Further exposure, all the equipment is off the premises.
I guess from now on, we'll just
Now
they better bring the proof of insurance with them.
Well, I think that's what kind of caught me by surprise. You put right on there that, the liability insurance and the dollar value of it. Okay, well, we usually get that prior to payment.
If it did, just bring a certificate of insurance.
Yeah. But again, it wasn't a new contract, we've already dealt with them, so it shouldn't have happened, but it did.
I'm not concerned with it. I don't have anything to say about it, but I would like to keep that service intact where they come and check paint on the pool on a regular basis.
Tenemic is the actual paint company. They will have a representative stay on this. We've actually talked to Tenemic, who had Hamza, who had done the previous give us the quote to do the work and stuff, and that's how, it was kind of all tied together like it was all legitimate and okay, but as far as the insurance piece was not, and or the two that started.
Do we want to pay that out of cycle, or do we want to wait till the December cycle to pay that bill?
So we don't need a rush payment on that. I think that we've been enough.
Are you guys still okay?
I don't know. I don't know what
Larry Bill.
Everybody's getting on board.
You're never going to live it down.
So I guess, being it was a quoted price, and we're just authorized to go ahead and pay that. It was $4,000 to redo the black lines, and they did some additional work to it. I don't have any interest in paying them for that. They didn't talk to us prior to doing it. It's just part of what they did for that price.
You mean like that? Depth level?
Yeah. And the quality of that's a little low. A little bit.
Well, never struggled with that.
They did.
Spell to have them.
Well, it bled a little bit, and it's not that great. Yeah. It could be better. Okay, the last thing I've got is I talked to the Bank West. They are planning on going ahead with the light parade this Friday. Obviously, with weather, we have problems or complaints every year about low light and dangerousness. If we have any slick surfaces or anything, I'm probably not going to turn off the lights just for safety purposes. And I've already told them that. I don't want to put ourselves in a fine. We've already had concerns with it being too dark. So we'll just deal with that based on safety.
That's all I got. Okay, does anybody have any questions for JR? If not, do I hear a motion to accept and file the superintendent report?
We would file superintendent.
Been moved by Roger. Second by Cale. All in favor?
I'm sure I can say I'm in favor.
Attorney report.
I don't have anything.
Clerk report.
I'm going to hand these around. These are just, if everybody could sign these are the letters that go out with the employees' bonuses that will, well, as soon as you guys sign and the checks are ready, I think they were there for you guys to sign. Can Roger sign those, because theirs is out for the whole week? And then we'll hand them out tomorrow or Wednesday, whenever the...
You'll sign all the time, right?
Yes. Please. Yes, please.
I'm just over here picking a fight. Go on.
Oh, you might let the employees know tomorrow morning that they can stop by tomorrow or Wednesday and pick up their Christmas bonuses from the council. We talked about the payroll software, and JR and I kind of talked about it today, and we've decided that we're not going to add on the mobile devices at this time. They can be added at any time. You guys had already approved the payroll software as it was. We're going to go with that. And then if we find that perhaps it would be beneficial to have that as we work with the software, then we'll bring that back to the council. But I think that's where we're going to move forward with it at this point. So, in January, I don't know if I mentioned this to you guys last meeting or not, I'm going to step down from the CCDC board. I just have not been able to make it to the meetings. It's just another thing that I have not been committed to. The Cheyenne County Development Corporation. So the council needs to appoint somebody in January to be on that board. So I'd just like to ask the council to think about, who might be good to take my place, because I do need to step down from that. They meet the first Friday of every month at 9 o'clock in the morning. So just wanted to get that out there. Following the last council meeting, we talked about the thank you letter that we were going to put in the newspapers. After that, Amanda and Scott had discussed that didn't really make sense to do it that way, cost prohibitive wise, because there's over 50 organizations that were involved, and if we were to put something in every paper, that would be a lot. So they decided that the best course of action would be just to write a letter and to get it sent out to all the organizations. So I did compose a letter. It was given to the commissioners. The commissioners approved it. Everybody has signed it. I'm going to get those sent out as soon as I get addresses. I just have a list now with no addresses, so as soon as I can get those addresses figured out, I'll get the letters sent. The Sunday sales of liquor. That ordinance was published the second time back in October. The protest period ends on December 2nd. So if no protest is received, which I don't anticipate that there will be, I will then notify all of the businesses that are affected so that they can go ahead and start selling on Sundays. There's a letter if you'd like to read it, make sure that looks okay. I'll just send this out. There's I think 6 of them that we've got Cheney Liquor, You Save, Majestic, the bar down here, Diamond R, Eagle. That might be it. It might just be 5. Anybody that could sell retail CMB or liquor in the original packages would be getting this letter, but they can do that. Does that sound appropriate, Mike?
Yeah.
You might want to look at the letter and see. And then I just need to request just a couple minutes, maybe 3 minutes for executive session for non-elected personnel for hiring.
Is there a motion to accept and file the clerk report?
So moved.
Moved by Amanda. Second by Larry. All in favor? Approved. Just review council comments while we're reading that. Cable, you have anything?
Don't believe so.
Amanda? Roger? Larry? Don't think I've got anything either. I guess thank the crew for putting up the lights again. I know that's not one of their other things they like to do, but they'll have to take them down again. Don't put this in the paper either. Did you see that deal about the water tower, how to make it turn into a bell? And there were several people said, oh, can we do that?
They string the legs from the top of the water tower and they drip down so it looks like a bell.
It looks like a bell.
Can we do that in St. Francis? And there's all sorts of comments, there's too many antennas up in the water tower. Interference.
That does bring up a question, what's the purpose of the generators for their antennas?
Don't you leave the Christmas lights up all year? Why not?
What's your take on that?
Leave them up?
Yeah.
It'll dry that, plastic on them.
The hailstorm will be tough.
They're not, yeah. And these new lights, these new LEDs, they're actually pretty easy to handle. They're not near.
A lot better than
A lot
stuff.
better, not even close to the labor of the old glass ones. So, no, they're not bad.
Okay, well, I guess we'll stop here for a second, and then we'll go into 3 different executive sessions.
Randy, did you want a copy of the snow route thing?
Which one? Sorry.
The snow route and the maps and things?
I did get, yeah, it was great. Thank you.
Yeah.
You want to bring up law enforcement? I'll bet. Yeah, I'll bet you can.
Yeah, well, whatever this way you said about that, we should have done that, but I just keep going on, so.
I had to make a motion to go into executive session for, I guess, a legal matter for discussion of contract. Is that,
Civil real estate.
on.
With no law enforcement.
Legal matter.
Legal matter, for 10 minutes, to resume what? 8:55, 8:52,
2,
3?
3.
Prison.
Everybody present.
Okay, hold on just a moment.
And you will be ready by January 1, for sure.
What's that?
We get the number right, it will be
Mhm.
ready by January 1.
Yeah.
For sure.
So do I hear a motion that we offer them 83,000 for the contract?
6 months.
And review in 6 months?
Reviewing,
6 months.
because it's in the contract that we review every year, but
We can still
You-
look at
Performance,
the stats,
what-
look at the stats at least, so we know how it's going. Yeah.
No, we can
yeah,
change that.
we can change that to 6 months.
Change it to 6 months, just kind of give them that we're protecting ourselves and want to see how things are going in 6 months. If they can prove that it isn't paying, then we have another discussion about
Maybe
it.
not even if they can prove, if the city council sees the difference and
Right.
sees the change, and we see the docket, so that
Right.
We're not paying the municipal judge, what, $350 a month to,
Do nothing, yeah.
or the city, the clerk. She deserves a $800 a month increase to, isn't that what we talked about?
Yeah.
I'm your agent on this.
Okay.
That's one thing, a lot of that has gone down.
Now we dropped to 7,000 and with review in 6 months. Is that what you?
Change the contracted.
We offer, basically, I think you just moved it, we offer for a 6-month law enforcement agreement upon finalization of the boilerplate contract, fill in the number of, what, 89,000?
83,000. Because they're asking 89,909, so we're 83,000.
Well, they're actually asking
104,765, but
So
then
we
you
have to
take
change
that off.
that.
So they're asking 89,909 right now. But we'll be dropping 7,000 off of it, which is 82,909. We just bumped it up to 83. Review in 6 months, and if we see that they're doing exceptional, then
We can decide that, yeah.
So who made that motion?
Roger.
Roger did, okay.
I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Kale, all in favor? Approved. Okay, we'll let Cody know tomorrow, and we'll be there Wednesday. Visit with him. Did he, what time we're gonna be on, do you know? Let me know.
I'm on at 9:15, he's on at, like, 9:30, 9:40.
And anybody else that can make it too, that's great. You have time? You know?
Pulling it up,
Okay.
it's taking a while.
Okay, well, that's pulling up, we'll go ahead and get started here. We need to go into executive session on the purchase of property and probably, oh gosh, how long is that gonna take again? Probably more than 5 minutes. Let's plan on 10 minutes. Come out at 9:10. Did I hear a motion to go into executive session for purchase of property?
I'm going to go into executive session for purchase of property, everybody in the room,
For the sale of
for the sale of property.
Yeah.
Going in the room for 10 minutes, coming out at 9:11.
Second.
Moved by Larry, second by Amanda.
How big is lot 3?
It is.
Okay.
Okay, do I hear a motion that we accept the proposal to buy that property, Lot 2, of the industrial park?
I'll make the motion.
With the reservation provision.
Right, right.
Yep.
That it reverts back to us if they do not put something on there. But
Is that
Second.
to the
Okay.
whole 3-year plan that he's got, or just if he builds one, is he
I
within
think,
the
I think we'll
provisions?
just probably put it, to be developed as proposed within 3 years.
What is the terms on here? Purchase price is contingent on project moving forward. If project does not move forward, buyer cannot resell lot.
Well,
Usually the city gets the first right of refusal.
Yes.
right. If he wouldn't put anything up, he's got to give it back to us, deed it back to us, because he can't sell to make
Mhm.
profit. And then Yeah.
But he has 3 years to complete the project as proposed.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, do we hold him to 3 bins? Or if he puts up 1 bin, he's,
No,
I think
that's
at least-
proposed.
As
Okay.
proposed, yeah.
Proposing the 3 bins.
As
Right?
proposed, yeah, I would say as proposed.
okay.
Because we can look
But
back
give
on.
him 3 years to do it. So
Right.
if he doesn't put up anything for the first 2 years, that's fine, but then he's got to put up 3 of them.
And that language is going to be on the deeds from the
Yeah.
other properties, right?
Well, I don't know what, we might put some different language on this. It's going to be a 3-year period. So it basically be reversion to the city if the project is not completed as proposed within 3 years from the end of the deed.
I was
We might
thinking
get
on
2
that.
grain bids.
Huh?
So we might get 2
So if he
grain
puts up
bids.
2, then
Because
we're gonna,
I was thinking that
Got a
Farland
problem with
property
that?
had a clause on there that ends a date in so many years or whatever,
Yeah,
property wasn't improved. I can pull one of those old,
okay, but we'll
Yeah.
put the same.
that's what I'm saying, it's
Basically,
just the
we
same,
want-
yeah.
Give him 3 years to put 3 bins up, right, is what we're,
Mhm.
but what if he gets 2 done in 3 years? What are we gonna do?
We got
Source
2
of
bins.
bins, you know.
We just get them back, huh? We just take them, and the grain.
How long does a person have to own that ground before he can sell it for profit, after he's developed it?
If they've met the terms of building on it, if they've met that term at that point, they can resell it, right?
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
I thought
Typically, I
that you
think,
had
we thought we
something
were
in mind about the first right of refusal. Maybe not.
with the first right of refusal, you could, yeah. I don't think you want to extend that indefinitely, maybe a 10-year first right of refusal,
It doesn't matter, but I,
whatever you know.
no, it's not, it kind of affects me, maybe. But, you know, I didn't never know if that was open-ended or if he could sell, after he developed it, he could sell it for profit.
Yeah.
Okay. That answers my question.
Okay.
Are you moving to DC with me? Is that what? So we want the 3-year reservation, right? He's got 3 years to develop it as proposed. But do we want a first right of refusal?
I don't think so.
Just if it's not developed as proposed, then it would.
It says to do it.
Well, but if he doesn't develop it as proposed, then it would revert back to the city.
But what happens if he only puts 2 bins up?
It reverts back to city, but I don't, you know.
That doesn't make any sense.
Because that could happen, I can see what he's saying.
Yeah.
I don't know.
If the market
He
goes
said,
to
if the
shit,
economy's not good for myself, he said, I'm not gonna put up that 2nd and 3rd bin until I get to those points.
Yeah.
I'd say 1 bin would satisfy.
Yeah.
Whatever, yeah, whatever.
I'd
I
say
think we do the 1 bin.
At least 1 bin within
3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No?
No, I think the 1 bin ought to be right away, within a year.
Maybe within 1 year.
I think 1 bin should be within a year. And I think that's why he did that. I think he put the 1 year on there to get 1 bin up because he said it all depended on the economy and how farming went, on whether he could afford to go ahead and put up.
But then if we just put 1 bin on there, he could obviously sell some of that property to somebody else or.
We could put that in there too. Oh.
Maybe that's why you put the first right of refusal in there, if he's not gonna fully develop it.
Yeah.
Revert within 1 year if we don't have 1 bin, and a first right of refusal for 10 years if the 3 bins are up. You okay with that?
Any portion of it, yeah.
Yeah.
Any portion of,
I think he'll develop it and
Yeah.
probably get 1 bin up right away, and then if things keep going. I mean, look what he's already done up there. He's already
I think
put
things
3
will go
bins
well.
up. He's talking 3 more, so.
It's a first right of refusal. You can say
Yeah.
we're not interested.
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so Cale made the motion and Larry seconded it, right? Okay, all in favor? Last, okay. So we'll let you write that up and then we'll contact him? Or I guess,
Yeah, well, yeah.
or should I call him and tell him that we approved it? We'll be getting a contract to
The
him?
reservation that he understood, yeah.
Okay. What's your executive session now?
Non-elected personnel for hiring,
How many minutes?
3,
3.
yeah.
Make a motion to go into executive session for non-elected personnel for discussion of hiring for 3 minutes to resume at, what, 9:20?
Yeah.
Amanda,
Amanda.
then I'll second it.
I don't know if anybody else is paying attention.
Yes. Okay, do I hear a motion that we hire Cody Workman for part-time?
So moved.
Been moved by Amanda, second by Cale, all in favor?
Where's the cricket sound?
At the salary that I asked.
Got the salary.
I have to have that ready.
I know.
They didn't really
Do I
say.
hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
What's that?
Moved by Amanda.
References?